This is the WHTC Morning News with Gary Stevens on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
Welcome back to the WHTC Morning News for this Tuesday, February 15th. Tuesday mornings, we catch up with what's going on in Washington with one of the two men who represent the Lakeshore. In Washington, he is U.S. House Representative Fred Upton of St. Joseph, back home this week after at least, Fred, good morning, at least keeping the government running through the middle of March.
Well, actually, the Senate hasn't taken up this bill. So in the House, we passed what's called the CR, the continuing resolution, which is baseline funding, prevents the shutdown. We've been doing that since October 1st. But the Senate, and I was reading this online last night, they've not accepted that yet. So they're without an acceptance, there is a shutdown come Friday. So there's a number of senators, Republicans, that are blocking it right now. And somehow it has to get 60 votes to get done. So we'll see what happens as they're in session. And obviously it's nice for us to be home.
I would obviously want to talk a little bit about the ramifications of what might happen if the Senate decides to dig in its heels. But I do want to discuss the ongoing situation in the Russian-Ukrainian border. Some saying maybe tomorrow the Russians will invade. And there's a sense of inevitability about this, Fred. Do you get that as well or no?
Well, we've been hearing this for a couple of weeks, and that's why it's so important that our NATO allies join with us to show that it's not just us, it's not just Ukraine, and I've been there, as we talked before, a couple of times myself, but it's the rest of Europe as well, that we've got to be a united front. And one of the things that's driving all this is energy. We've seen natural gas prices increase, particularly in Germany, I want to say by 400% in the last year. And Putin is using this new gas pipeline as the threat to take Ukraine. When I say we, with the NATO allies, are saying that pipeline isn't going to be, if in fact they invade. Clearly, Russia's got the forces to do so. In fact, all the estimates, I'm sure that they're accurate, that they could be in Kyiv, the capital, within really just a couple of days. But man, it's going to be pretty bloody. Talking about tens of thousands of people killed, lots of damage. Perhaps millions of refugees that leave. But on the energy side, just this uncertainty, and in fact, if Russia goes, the price of oil at the barrel is likely to jump over $100 a barrel. So you could see prices here. I mean, not that they're not high enough already, a big cause for inflation. But you could easily see the price of gas at the pump jump at least $1, maybe even more, almost overnight. So there's an economic impact, not only on us as the individuals, but just the transportation of goods and services, auto parts. I mean, all those things that our economy needs to run, groceries, all those things, tremendous increase, which then, of course, adds to inflation, which undermines our economy here to a certain degree too. So this is pretty serious. And at least the news this morning, the public news, is that perhaps Russia is now beginning to withdraw some of their more than 120 some thousand troops back to their bases. Let's hope that effort continues, but it is very uncertain. And they've been telling us that it's been imminent for a long time, but maybe diplomacy will have a big win here.
Yeah, I hope it is the case, Fred, but it just seems as if from an outside looking in, without having the insiders look or the day-by-day stuff, that the Russian bear is starting to flex its Soviet muscles again, and there might be more than just the Ukraine. The Balkans, the Baltic states could be involved. It just seems as if the Kremlin wants to get back to the old days of the USSR.
Well, you put your finger right on the button. That's Putin. That's what he wants to do, and he has not listened to a lot of reason so far, as he's had this tremendous buildup. And again, in the Ukraine, they're not going to join NATO anytime soon. And remember, this is a defensive, and they're not in NATO now. It's one of his demands. That's not going to happen. But at the same time, let's just hope that we can hold this off because of its impact, not only obviously on Eastern Europe, but refugees. I mean, don't we have enough trouble? But obviously, it boomerangs back here to the United States as well.
There's a few other things going on in Washington, even though, as you say, the House is not in session. One of the things going on is that the Energy Department's announcing a series of initiatives to strengthen clean hydrogen energy, in addition to using the federal government's purchasing power to advance its climate goals, including moves by the General Services Administration to buy low-carbon concrete and asphalt. Symbolic measures more than anything else, Fred, on this?
Yeah, probably so. I don't know any of the details of that announcement. Climate change is real. We know that, but we're spending a ton of money already. And as we saw with the Super Bowl, the ads, it's electric vehicles. I can remember sitting down with Bill Ford, then the CEO of Ford Motor, and he said, "You know what? We can do some things, but tell us which way to go. We can't do them all. We don't have the engineers to do all of this." So we've made some good advancements, particularly in electric vehicles. We've been beginning to see the percentage change based on consumer foot traffic in terms of purchasing some of those vehicles. To shift again, a lot of resources. I'm not sure that we're going to be able to afford that.
And the other thing, too, is the fact that if you go to, say, electric, how do you generate the electricity? Coal is now verboten, and the natural gas prices are going up as well. If you don't get it in one end, you get it at the other.
That's right. And, there was a story, I want to say it was at M Live this morning. We all support renewables, but at some point when the sun doesn't shine and the wind doesn't blow, you got real trouble. And as you suggested, I mean, coal, even here in Michigan, we're not going to have any coal plants in 5 years from now. One of the latest to be turned off, of course, is the Port Sheldon plant up in Grand Haven. They made a lot of improvements over the last number of years, but that's now going to be phased out. We're going to be seeing the Palisades plant close in the not too distant future. Got a new gas plant that's opening up in Niles, Michigan. I had a big hand in seeing that happen, more than $1 billion in new construction. But at the end of the day, we got to have it all of the above. Renewables aren't going to do 100%.
And the other thing, too, is the fact that some might say, well, we're trying to stress all the renewables, sort of get a spur to that industry because right now they can't provide all the energy needs. But if you sort of put the pressure on saying, we're going to be doing renewables more and more, American ingenuity would come to the fore and we'd come up with solutions. That's a little bit of a gamble there, Fred.
Yeah, you're right.
We'll see. And one final thing. No-knock legislation, no-knock warrant legislation. One of the members of the squad is asking Capitol Hill to pass restrictions on no-knock warrants. Is this more of a local police matter, or should the feds get involved?
Well, we can see some new guidelines come in. I mean, one of the things, our law enforcement folks need more resources, not less. That's number one. But at the same time, we can make sure that, what happened in Minneapolis this last week, I'd like to think that we can make sure that those things can't happen again, that you've got the proper safeguards to protect from that. I think there's bipartisan support for some of those reforms going forward. I'm not sure that AOC is the right person to lead that, particularly if you want to get something done on a bipartisan basis. But at the end of the day, we can see some good reforms that certainly don't take away from the law enforcement's ability to enforce the law.
Yeah, one of the members of the squad in that regard is Representative Omar, who does represent the Minneapolis area in Congress. Fred, as always, thank you very much for your time. Thanks for your insight. And if all goes well, we'll do this again in a couple of weeks.
We look forward to it. All the best.
All right, thank you very much, Fred Upton on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.